Hello dear friends, I'm Marina with your weekly horoscope for the first week of July. This week we have three major astrology events. We have a solar eclipse in Cancer, we have Mercury going retrograde, and also Mars ingressing Leo. So obviously the week can be very intense with lots of changes and we need to prepare. That's what we are going to talk about. Plus, we are also going to cover all of the other aspects during the whole week. The first thing I want to pay attention to is that the signs Cancer and Leo are very active. What's the reason for that? First of all, the solar eclipse is in Cancer. On the other hand, Mars enters Leo, and Mercury will be retrograde first in Leo and then it will go back to Cancer. So it's actually quite interesting. When I noticed that, I was also quite surprised, and it really should be very important. You know, you really need to pay attention where in your chart you have the signs Cancer and Leo. In those life areas you may experience lots of changes, transformations, things that you need to be cautious of. And to make it easier for you, actually, I have prepared a short list where you can see the houses which are triggered for each of the signs. Those houses are triggered first by Mercury retrograde, the first one here, and Mars as well. The second house is triggered by the solar eclipse, and later also by Mercury retrograde after the 19th. So I'm going to explain all of that, so don't worry if you feel kind of confused. Just remember that two life areas of your life, at least two major life areas, might be triggered, and you may need to make certain changes or to adapt to new circumstances, and overall to be more careful. Of course, the most important event of the week is the solar eclipse. Mercury retrograde is interesting, but not as interesting as the solar eclipse. Eclipses happen twice a year. They're very karmic, fated astrology events. I won't talk too much about it because I have a whole webinar, free webinar, which you may watch. You will find the link below this video, and there you can see, you know, the whole explanation of the eclipse and how it triggers each of the signs. So now I'm just reminding you about this webinar. Also, let me remind you that we are starting our Eclipses transformational program. It begins on the 2nd of July, Tuesday. It will be in a small private Facebook group, and we are going to work with all of the Cancer topics. We are going to use EFT to release old trauma, to work with our childhood, with connections between family members, parents. It's gonna be amazing. The price is only $49 for a 3-week program. There is also a very special option here. If you want to have also a 60-minute astrology session with me and the full transformational program, it will cost you only $149. The regular price only for one session is $180, so you have a huge discount. Now, at the end of the video, I will explain more about this transformational program. Now, let's dive deep into our forecast. As I said, Mars, first of all, will make an ingression in Leo. It happens on Monday. The first house here is the one which is triggered by Mars and by Mercury retrograde. Mercury turns retrograde on Sunday. So basically we can say that most of the week things are fine with Mercury. You need to prepare for this transition around Friday, maybe even Saturday, maybe even Friday, you know, is still kind of okay. On Saturday, Mercury is very slow and preparing, you know, to turn actually to become stationary and then to turn retrograde. So about Mercury, we need to prepare at the end of the week. The starting point of the retrograde phase on Sunday is 5 degrees in Leo. So this is where Mercury is gonna change its direction, and Mercury remains retrograde until the end of the month. So between the 7th and the 31st of July, Mercury is retrograde. Now here pay attention that around the middle of the period, so on the 19th of July, Mercury makes transition into Cancer, goes back to Cancer. So 2 life areas can be triggered by this transit. As we said, here Cancer is where we are having the solar eclipse, and Leo is where we are having Mars. So obviously the 2 houses which you see here will be very, very active for you, and you may really notice changes or lots of events, even karmic events. So just prepare for that. Now, a couple of words about Mercury retrograde overall. This is not the time when, you know, life should stop, because it's just not possible. It's just a time you need to be more cautious. Try not to start brand new things, especially if it's important and you want it to be long lasting. For example, if you want to find a permanent job, then don't sign a contract during this period. If you want to start your own business, forget about this period. If you would like to make a purchase of something important or something expensive, also think about it. Now, as I said, it doesn't mean that, you know, life stops, but I have noticed that even small purchases sometimes may, you know, things might be wrong, or you might have confused something. Very often, for example, if you order something online, let's say if you haven't seen it live, they may send you the wrong size, they may send you the wrong color, or you may realize that you don't really like how this looks on your body, or certain gadget might break up. So it won't happen for everyone, of course. You know, every day we have to buy things, food and so on, you know, some supplies or things which break up, and we just have to replace them. So obviously it's not 100% true, but there are much higher chances for that. Even I have experienced, you know, even though I know Mercury retrograde is not the best time, you know, sometimes you just like something. For example, I bought shoes, I think during the last Mercury retrograde phase, which looked very nice. I really liked them. And after I started walking with them for 1 hour, well, it turned out that they're really hurting my feet, and I just don't use those shoes. I cannot bear them. So these are typical scenarios. Something is, you know, forgotten, something is replaced, something is confused, especially when it comes to information, communication, internet connections. You know, very often there are some kind of failure. Sometimes, you know, banking systems may also have challenges. So just pay more attention. If you are working with information, you know, with some details, check everything twice at least. If you are planning a trip or, you know, travel somewhere, check the documents. Check, you know, if everything is okay, up to date, if you have something expired, or, you know, if your time schedule is correct, if you have remembered everything correctly. Mercury retrograde brings delays, misunderstandings, mistakes, and all kinds of, you know, similar things. Now, what would be positive for you to do while Mercury is retrograde? To make a revision of something, to make a retrospection, to let go of something old, or to complete, to finish with old tasks. Certain projects that, you know, you have left almost done, or, you know, half done, go back and finish those things. Or, you know, something might be restarted. Of course, that's the best manifestation of Mercury retrograde. Old projects might be restarted, old relationships, old contacts. You may meet your ex-boyfriend on the street, or he may call you, or, you know, an old friend from the past might call you. very typical for Mercury retrograde. And the other thing is that also you may notice that you are not fully concentrated. For example, it takes you more time to concentrate, or you may forget some details, or you don't, you know, learn new information so easily. That's also normal. You know, these are regular phases, and we need to be more introspective and to, you know, to slow down a little bit. So that's the general, you know, information about each phase of Mercury retrograde. Now, as we said, first Mercury is in Leo, then it moves back to Cancer. Now, just with a couple of words, here you can say the houses which are triggered for each of the 12 signs. Make sure to check your sun and ascendant sign as well. Again, I would remind you that the first house you see is triggered by Mercury retrograde, but also by Mars. On Monday, Mars enters this house, this sign here, the first one which you see. Which means that even though Mercury will be retrograde there a few days later, we can still feel, you know, the desire to do something, to take certain action in regards to this life here. There might be some dynamic there. There might be something changing, something triggering us to move forward or to take action or to take certain risks. So honestly, it may not be such a simple task to, you know, to remain passive in regards to this area where Mercury will be retrograde. You know, part of you may really push you to move forward, to do something, to take action, even though things may not work, you know, flawlessly or so easier, because Mercury a couple of days later turns retrograde there. So obviously there might be some kind of frustration, because we are not calm, we are not just, you know, accepting the things, the situation, but there is also another part of you which, not only of you, but of us overall, which pushes us, you know, requires from us to take action, makes us impatient. Very, very interesting to observe and to experience. For Aries, first Mercury is retrograde in 5th house, and this is where Mars is also gonna be. So special attention to your romantic life, you know, personal relationships, hobbies, children, entertainment. Later, Mercury, after the 20th, moves back to your 4th house. So after that, more attention to your family, home issues, property issues, and basically, you know, also your personal life overall. For Taurus, Mercury and Mars will trigger first 4th house. The house related to your home, to your family, to your properties and your personal life overall. Later, Mercury retrograde triggers 3rd house, the house which has been also triggered by the solar eclipse, let me remind you. So the focus will be more on personal contacts, your skills, education, plans for traveling, communication with siblings as well. For Gemini, of course, the retrograde phase of Mercury is even more important, because Mercury is your own ruler. So more attention during the whole period. First of all, Mercury retrograde and Mars trigger your 3rd house. So communication, contacts, siblings, your skills, plans for traveling, trips, you need to be extra careful there, but at the same time you may want to do something new. After the 19th, Mercury triggers 2nd house, the house which was triggered also by the solar eclipse. So finances and resources, these are, you know, the 2 life areas that you need to be very careful of. For Cancer, of course, this is gonna be a very important period. First of all, Mercury is retrograde in your 2nd house. This is where also Mars is gonna transit. So lots of focus on your personal resources, your energy, your money, of course. And later, after the 19th, Mercury triggers your own sign. Mercury goes back to Cancer, where you have recently had also a solar eclipse. So obviously personal changes, personal transformation, reassessment of your own personal actions, plans and goals. So lots of changes for Cancer and also for Leo. I think that these are the two signs which are, you know, strongly affected by those events, this combination of astrology events. For Leo, as we said, first of all, Mercury is retrograde in your own sign, so personal changes, reassessment of your own actions, plans and goals. Later on, after the 19th, Mercury goes back to 12th house. So more focus on spiritual stuff, on your emotions, more time to, you know, spend on your own, to reassess the past and potentially even let go of the past. For Virgo, first of all, Mercury is retrograde in 12th house. This is also where Mars is gonna transit for around 2 months. So it's first of all time to slow down a little bit, to, you know, prepare for the new beginning, but at the same time also to complete old things, to finish old projects, to let go of things which has happened in the past. As I said, spiritual work and also maybe more need for isolation or time on your own. After the 19th, Mercury moves to 11th house, the house which is also triggered by the solar eclipse. So in regards to friendships, communication, communities, groups of people, your ideals, in this area, you may go through some kind of changes and transformations. For Libra, first of all, Mercury is retrograde. Yeah, one more thing also about Virgo. Of course, Mercury is the ruler of your sign. So obviously this transit, this retrograde phase is very important. For Libra, Mercury is first of all in 11th house together with Mars. So more focus on social work, communication with friends or communities or groups of people. At the same time, you need to be careful with all of those things. You may realize that you need to let go of something, or maybe you need to restart something from the past. So mostly social area and communication with friends and communities. After the 19th, very important transition, Mercury retrograde goes back to your 10th house, the house triggered also by the solar eclipse. So career changes, reassessment of your career goals or plans or actions, and anything in regards to authority figures. For some people it could be, you know, government issues or people who have more power or your business overall. So those are the main life areas. For Scorpio, first of all, Mercury retrograde together with Mars will trigger your 10th house, one of the most important houses in the chart. So changes in regards to career, social work, business, communication with authority figures. Later on, after the 19th, Mercury goes back to your 9th house, the house triggered by the solar eclipse. So some kind of reassessment of your goals overall, also of education or plans for traveling, and I think probably the most important, your personal philosophy, personal beliefs. Are there any limiting beliefs, or do you have enough positive beliefs to nurture you and to support you? It's really time to focus on that area. For Sagittarius, Mercury is retrograde in 9th house in the beginning together with Mars. So there might be a strong desire to explore something, to learn something, to see things from a different perspective. So Mars, you know, brings you the energy to do something, to be active. Mercury retrograde allows you to be more introspective, to look at things from a different perspective. So interesting insights are possible, interesting ideas, a new worldview as well, more plans or change of plans in regards to education, traveling, and all kinds of long-term goals. And after the 19th, Mercury goes back to your 8th house, the house triggered by the solar eclipse as well. So more attention to mutual finances and resources. You really need to be careful. I wouldn't recommend you to take some loans or money from other people. It could be a great time actually to return money that you owe to other people. That would be a great idea. But this may also be quite intense on an emotional level. You know, you may go through some kind of crisis which may, you know, awaken you in some way, or may push you to make a significant drastic change in your life. So there might be lots of transformations for Sagittarius people. Capricorn, first of all, will experience the transit of Mercury retrograde in 8th house together with Mars. So lots of energy there, which is focused on your mutual resources, money coming from other people, your partner's money. Sometimes it could be, you know, something transformative. For some people, topics like that might be important, or, you know, letting something go out of your life. And, you know, it doesn't mean that it's a death in the family, but generally, you know, those topics might be more, you know, kind of important in your life and happening around. So transformation, reassessment of mutual finances and resources. Don't forget also 8th house is the house of conceiving, so who knows. Later, after the 19th, Mercury goes back to your 7th house, the house triggered by the solar eclipse as well. So relationships and partnerships. Old relationships can be restarted. People from the past might come back. It's not a positive time to start brand new relationships. And generally, your plans in regards to this area might change in some way. For Aquarius, Mercury is retrograde in 7th house in the beginning. So this is also, as we said, the house triggered by Mars. So lots of passion in relationships, in partnerships, possible confrontations, and, you know, anger issues are also present there. But, you know, desire to do something with other people. Maybe people from your past might come back. Maybe, you know, you may call people that, you know, you have forgotten about, or for some reason you may meet them on the street. But, you know, taking action also with another person or with a partner is actually highly possible during this period. After the 19th, Mercury goes back to your 6th house together with the solar eclipse, triggering your work, your health, your responsibilities. It's not a positive time for starting a brand new career project or business, or something that you want to be long-lasting or stable. But at the same time, you may reassess your daily routines, your working schedule, your responsibilities, communication with co-workers. So yeah, here is the main focus. And Pisces, for you guys, Mercury is retrograde in 6th house in the beginning, together with Mars, who is joining there. So lots of dynamics in regards to career, daily responsibilities, responsibilities towards other people and taking care of others, business, work environment. But don't start brand new things. You may restart old projects. For example, going back to a place where you have worked in the past. That's something great that you can do with Mars and Mercury retrograde in 6th house. Not a good idea would be, for example, to start a brand new business. Probably it won't work out as you are imagining it. It doesn't mean that it will be a complete failure, but things will be different from what you are expecting. That's almost for sure. After the 19th, Mercury goes back to your 5th house together with the solar eclipse. So more focus on romance, love, children. Love from the past might come back. Going back to some of your hobbies or things that you have enjoyed doing in the past is something great that you can do. Not the best time for brand new dates. You know, it's just not the most supportive transition. So that's, in short, with just a couple of words, the information about each of the signs. I'm trying to make this, you know, bearable, so it's not, you know, too overwhelming. Just the key life areas which are triggered. Okay, actually, yeah, I need to do the opposite here. Now let's move through each of the days to see, you know, what type of energies we have and how we can plan our week. July the 1st, Monday, Mars in Leo. So I showed you, you know, here the first house that we talked about, this one here, is where Mars will be in your chart for approximately 2 months. So in this area you may focus during the next 2 months. Generally, Mars in Leo, how it affects us. So Mars in Leo is in a strong position because Mars is a fire planet and Leo is a fire sign. On top of that, Mars is coming from Cancer, a very weak, uncomfortable position. So overall, the energy becomes more dynamic. We might become more confident to take action, to take certain risks, to be more optimistic in regards to our actions, to be more willing to take independent actions also, not to depend on other people, not to depend so much on our emotions or the emotional support we receive from others. It's time to take some action in regards to our own desires, to listen to our heart, to take risks, to be optimistic, to be positive. That's all you need to know about Mars in Leo. The moon is in Gemini on Monday, which means great day for communication, for contacts, more variety, more flexibility around us. So overall, for business, for learning, for traveling, this is a positive combination. Now, one thing which we also need to consider here is that on the next day we have the solar eclipse. So basically here on the 1st we are already in the zone of the eclipse, which means that probably you should postpone some important projects. You know, if this is brand new, if this is something really important, maybe it's not the best time actually to start it. Keep in mind that right before the solar eclipse, which is basically a regular new moon with one of the nodes, here also the moon is invisible. And when the moon is invisible, this is not the best time to materialize something. So overall, you know, the energy looks supportive, but you may still feel like, you know, the energy is a little lower, like things are not happening so fast, even though Mars is in Leo. With the invisible moon closer to the solar eclipse, things might be a little messy, so yeah, be prepared. On the 2nd of July, Tuesday, of course, the most significant event during the week, we have the solar eclipse in Cancer. 11 degrees, that's the exact degree of the conjunction between the sun and the moon. The north node is there on the 18th degree, so check out where you have those degrees in your chart. As I told you, you can find a whole free webinar only about the solar eclipse and how it triggers each of the signs. The link is below this video. And also we are starting our Eclipses Transformational program on Tuesday, which is gonna be so different from anything that we have done so far, and I guess from what you have found anywhere else, because it's something brand new which I am trying to, you know, create and to combine different approaches, different tools, different sources of information. So I really think that if you are ready for a transformation, if you're ready to do some work, you may get incredible results, and most importantly, insights and, you know, letting go of old problems and issues. More about it at the end of the video, as I promised. July the 3rd, Mercury in a minor challenging aspect with Neptune, square and a half. So it means that we need to be extra careful with some details, with all kinds of plans, information, more chances to forget something, to make a mistake, or to be misled by other people. On the other hand, the imagination might be more active, more alive. Creative work, spiritual work, meditations, they can be great when we have those aspects. The other interesting event is that Venus is having also an ingression in Cancer, which, by the way, is also one of the two signs which we already talked about. The signs triggered by the eclipse and Mars and Mercury retrograde. So Cancer and Leo are, you know, so active during, I don't know, weeks ahead, maybe even months. So Venus in Cancer on Wednesday. Venus in Cancer is very emotional, very sentimental. We may cry a little bit more, we may dramatize a little bit more. You know, we are more sensitive, more delicate, more vulnerable. Women need more attention, women need more emotional connection. You know, Cancer is the sign which also represents, you know, the child archetype. So we might be a little bit immature when it comes to relationships, or kind of childish, you know, to need some extra attention or extra validation that we are appreciated, that we are loved. But of course, you know, Cancer, a water sign, so the emotions become deeper, not too dramatic. Of course, it's not Scorpio, so it's not too dramatic, but a little bit more sentimental and romantic as well. The moon is in Cancer also, so lots of emotions, lots of feelings, focus on family issues, on home. Great time to relax, actually. Great time for our work of the eclipses transformation. So it is a special day, I would say. Then July the 4th, which is Thursday, Mars and Jupiter have square and a half, minor challenging aspect, which may bring a stronger desire to achieve more. There might be certain frustration as well, you know, from what you have achieved so far in regards to your goals, you know, and the actions that you have taken. But this can be a great motivational power. This frustration actually can motivate you to take more action, to focus more on some long-term goals, potentially also to focus on too many things at the same time and kind of lose the focus. But I would say that this can be the most productive day of the whole week. Even though we have this minor challenging aspect for work and achieving things, actually it's not bad at all. On top of that, the transit moon is in Leo, so more dynamic energy, more enthusiasm, more positive attitude, even more desire for entertainment, for having fun, for, you know, doing something independently. So Thursday is actually, you know, the most balanced day of the whole week, in my opinion. Friday the 5th of July, the atmosphere is harmonious. Mars and Venus connected with a minor positive aspect, semi-sextile. So this is very good for relationships between men and women, romantic area, going on a date or negotiating or doing something in regards to your own personal desires, something that you love, something that brings you joy. So it is nice, actually. And the moon is in Leo, so enthusiasm, positive atmosphere, positive attitude, desire to have fun. After all, it's Friday, so great day for a party and for having fun. I'm not saying that it's, you know, a very, very productive day, only because we are getting closer to Mercury retrograde. But, you know, even though this is happening, you may still take care of some work here on Friday as well. So Thursday and then Friday, these are the two most balanced days during the whole week. On Saturday, the moon is in Virgo, so we should be a little bit more grounded, focus on some domestic work or something which requires more attention, you know, especially to some details, to some small things, to be more precise, to be more accurate. Positive aspects with Venus and Uranus. So in regards to relationships, that's very positive, or love, or something that we love doing as well. The trine with Uranus can bring more excitement, positive surprises, you know, experimenting, trying something new. But we need to, you know, pay attention that here Mercury is stationary on the 6th. Because on the very next day it's turning retrograde. Stationary, you know, means that Mercury is moving, then it slows, and at a certain point it stops and it turns back. So here, this position we are calling, you know, stationary, and this is happening on Saturday and Sunday. When the planet is stationary, you know, the energy is very intense. So here we have to be extra careful for possible mistakes, misunderstandings, delays, and all of the Mercury stuff. But besides that, the energy is harmonious. On Sunday, the 7th of July, of course, the most important, we already mentioned a couple of times, Mercury retrograde on the 5th degree in Leo, and a harmonious aspect between Mercury and Venus. So this may help us actually to analyze certain things in regards to our personal life. Maybe, you know, to have a different approach, to have a different perspective in some way, but also for spending time with friends or the people that we love, communicating, maybe you know, solving certain issue from the past or certain topic, or finding solution of something from the past as well. All of that can happen because of this positive aspect. And the moon is in Virgo, which, by the way, puts even more focus on Mercury, because Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. So we need to be grounded, we need to be practical, maybe, you know, take care of some responsibilities, some domestic work, and just try to avoid, you know, important brand new things. So that's the general picture for next week. The three major events: solar eclipse, Mercury retrograde, Mars in Leo, but also Venus in Cancer. Pay attention where in your chart you have the signs Cancer and Leo. And now a little bit more information about our Eclipses transformational program. As I promised, we are starting on the 2nd of July, and the program will be for 3 weeks, only online, in a small private Facebook group where I will post certain videos and posts, and we are gonna have live meditations on the 2 eclipses on the 2nd and the 16th of July. And we are gonna work mostly with the topics related to this eclipse, the topics related to Cancer. So childhood, parents, the past, connection with ancestors, our memories, and so many other things. We are going to use the tapping technique, EFT, to release some of those blockages. I will provide lots of information which can be so valuable for you. And you have 2 options. You can just, you know, join the transformational program for $49 for the whole period, or if you also want to get a 60-minute session, the price for the 2 is $149, which gives you a huge discount. So hurry up and make sure to save your seat. If you have some questions, you can send me an email, you can write in the comments. And I'm so excited personally, I also have my ascendant in Cancer, so I also feel personally triggered by that, but I also, you know, want to do something together with other people, together with you. When we are in a group, the energy is much different and much more powerful. So I really hope that I will see you in our transformational program, and I wish you a very positive week, you know, to be wise, to be patient, to be able to look at things from a different perspective. And I will see you next week.